I know it's hard to believe, but August is almost over. We are getting into the final quarter of the year. Now is the time for you to get your financial shit together. Get it together for the end of this year and get it together for the beginning of next year so that you don't even have to think about it through 2023. Do this by hiring Molly Morris at m3virtualaccounting.com. I hired her last year, and I truly wish I had done it years ago. Have a free consultation and see if she can help you at m3virtualaccounting.com. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering Ted Lasso, Season 2, Episode 1. Goodbye, Earl. In this episode, we start things off with a dog being killed, and I feel like I'm in a fucking Stephen King novel. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn. I'm so happy to be doing this.
You guys, they really just decided that's how their cold open was going to go. They really just killed a dog.
Yup.
Oof. And I'm just imagining the writer's room, and they're like, okay, we need Dani Rojas to suffer a crisis of faith. What could cause that? He hurt somebody. Who would he hurt? Somebody totally innocent. How about a cute dog? Oh, he hurts a dog. How does he do that? Well, it has to be something to do with soccer, because it has to mean that he can't play soccer. Okay, so he kicks the dog to death? Okay, that's a little too much. What if the dog jumps in front of the ball? That seems a little far-fetched. He was chasing a bird. Oh, okay, now I feel like that could happen. And it's just such a wild... It works for the absurdity of the show. Mm-hmm. It's totally like... It works. But I am watching this happen and the dog running towards the goal, and I am not expecting this dog to die. I am just expecting this dog to ruin the shot. Mm-hmm. And cause some kind of ruckus. And instead, you just hear this whimper. Cut to Rebecca walking with Higgins down the hallway talking about what a tragic accident it is.
This is such a great line.
And then a next scene, somebody says something about the dog that Dani Rojas killed. And mm-hmm. Owen's sitting next to me going, wait, he killed it? And I'm like, how did you not get that in the context of all the dialogue very clearly? But I love when Higgins is like, well, we're not on TV really, so it's fine. And she says, the internet. And he's like, fuck
the goddamn internet.
He comes up and says, Twitter's going nuts. And Rebecca says, oh my God, did we really make Michael Jordan cry?
How I love that so much. Is it? It's so good. It's so good. I love that this show understands that we are going to know what GIF meme that she's responding to with the Michael Jordan bit. I love the delivery of, oh, right, the goddamn internet. It's so perfect.
I just really wonder, and I guess this has happened to me because occasionally there's been references that Ted makes that I didn't get at the time. But she says, did we really make Michael Jordan cry? And you and I get that it's a GIF. But if, say, my mom was watching this, she would have no idea that was a joke about a GIF. She would think Michael Jordan watched the game and cried.
Right.
Which is still funny. It still works as a joke, but it's just a totally different read on it, you know?
Yeah, the layers.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is one of my favorite things about the way the jokes in this show are written is just about everyone has layers to it, depending on how much you understand they're referencing, right? There's like a sort of a surface joke and then a little bit deeper if you get it. There's a lot of references over the first season that I didn't get that were explained to me just following the show on social media and people getting certain jokes and me being like, oh my God, I completely missed that. The bit about the dog, I will say this much. There's video on YouTube of a thing that happens usually in baseball where
a ball hits a bird.
A pitch will go, or a ball will be hit and it'll like just fucking disintegrate a bird that happens to be flying by.
That is so sad.
So I feel like they kind of took that thing that happens and just like upped it for like, comic value.
Can you imagine catching that ball that's like covered in blood and feathers?
Oh my God.
And just like looking at it in your mitt like, oh.
And then also the dog's name is Earl.
Yup.
Which I don't
think... He's an Earl Greyhound. I get it. I like too that it's a Greyhound because you would have to catch up with Dani Rojas as he's about to go and like do this kick. You got to pick the fastest dog. My friend just adopted a Greyhound named Sweep who used to do like racing.
Oh, fun.
And he won like the first couple of races, but then he just lost like 6 in a row. And I was like, fuck this dog. So she adopted him and she's been dressing him in these like...
Who?
My friend Sarah, she's from the Moon Cult group.
Oh, okay.
She's Australian. And she's been dressing him in these like really uptight like turtleneck outfits that make him look so snooty. But then he's got this doofy fucking face because he's got a really severe overbite. So his tongue like hangs out. So he's got this like, if you just saw him in silhouette, you'd be like, what an elegant dog. And then you see his face and he's like, and
looking like adorable. Prince Charles, or I guess he's King Charles now.
Oh boy. But yeah, pretty much. That's definitely the energy.
Yeah, my mother-in-law's neighbor has greyhounds, and they're the kind of dogs that I like in theory, but I've like never really met one in real life that I cared for.
That's fair. Yeah, this one, there's a picture of him on his side, and he's like gazing out into and his tongue is just sticking out a little bit, and people were captioning it with like, "What is he thinking?" And my caption was just, "Mother, why don't my top teeth touch my bottom teeth?" Anyway, okay. So they are, having a press conference where they have to deal with this, right. Because what's going on is they're in a tie streak.
Yeah, I want to mention the opening shot of this episode of the premiere is like a close up on Nate. Mm-hmm. And then we realize that they're like sort of at the end of a game, and we find out that this is like the 7th game of the season since they've been relegated, and they've been in a series of ties. They haven't won a game yet. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you caught it or not, but the announcers who showed up in the last episode who didn't have a big presence in the first season, but you're going to see them more this season.
Okay.
And I just find them very delightful. But I don't know if you caught the little back and forth between the announcers.
I did.
Where he asked him, can you imagine, tying on any... So, actually, I can. I'm a left brain dominant with a knack for imagination.
First of all, it's a right brain dominant.
Is it right brain, did he say?
Yes. But that, for some reason, that is one of my like favorite bits. It's just mentioned. I was crossing the street to go do something for a job when I was working at that hotel, and I was with a coworker, and we had to get to somebody's front door, and there was this big patch of unbroken snow and a walkway that had been shoveled out. And he went to the left to get onto the walkway, and I walked straight through the snow to the front door instead, and he just yelled, "Watch out, we got a right brainer here." And ever since, that's been sort of lodged into my brain, because I remember the decision I made where I'm like, I'm not walking all the way around, it's fucking snow, it's fine, like, just not, they're coming for me for walking through that snow.
Yeah, they're about to round you up.
I hope you guys know that every time we hear any sort of alarm, I am going to talk about how they're coming for me or Rashawn in the context of whatever we've just been talking about. So yeah, they are in a tie streak, trying so hard to get out of it. Currently, they're like 2-2 in this game or something. And this penalty kick is like very likely going to break it for them.
Yeah, this is the opportunity to fucking win the game finally.
Yeah.
Like win their first game of the season, so it's a big deal.
And poor Dani has this all on his shoulders, and he's psyching himself up, says football is life, does the kick, and he kills the dog. And then we have the press conference with Ted, and he tells a story.
Yeah.
And he decides to really pull our heartstrings a little bit. We get a mention of that Sam is doing better every game. So that's nice.
Yeah.
And then he talks about a dog that actually like bit him when he was a kid that made him kind of scared of dogs for a bit, but he didn't really remember the attack. Mm-hmm. And then the dog was kind of like abandoned by an owner that was getting too old to care for him and eventually was brought to a nursing home. So he adopts the dog, but only a year later they have to put the dog down.
Yeah.
And just the reflecting on something that like had used to scare him, and now it became something precious, and it being gone is, you know.
How the thought of something could scare you, and then the thought of not having that same thing, you know, causes you such grief and sadness.
So everybody in the audience is just really like clearly moved by it. And he says, I hope that we were able to help Earl get to a better place, and we're going to miss him a whole bunch. And then
I love to when Trent stands up and before
everybody says the and then somebody asks Ted, so how's Dani doing? And he says, I haven't gotten a chance to speak with him yet. I hope he's not beating himself up too bad. And I was just like, Ted, it's going to be bad. Buddy.
It's going to be real bad.
It's going to be bad. And sure enough, we cut to Dani fully clothed, even in his cleats still, standing under a running shower, trying to cleanse himself
of the death.
He just does repeated Hail Marys under his breath.
He is trying to wash the death off of him. And then Ted is like, well, make sure you get in the crannies.
Maybe you should use some soap. When I tell you that moment where there's the reveal of his face with the water pouring down and his hair, just like Owen laughed so hard. He was losing his mind. It's really funny because Owen and I have a similar sense of humor, and we'll find the same programs funny, but we respond really differently to specific jokes.
To in the moments, right?
Yeah. Like, because I was waiting for a wailing, sad Dani. Like, it was going to be really bad. So when they cut to this, I was like, yup, that's what I expected. And there was like, I wasn't laughing because it was pretty much what I was picturing. And I think Owen just really didn't think ahead. He was just in the moment watching it. So when it hit, he just got completely, and for me, it's often, you know, a goofy word play that's somebody saying something slightly wrong, which Owen can just sort of snort. And I'm crying and like incoherent and ask him to pause it because I just have to repeat the misspoken word like 6 times before I can move on. So anyway, it is very clear that he is not going to be able to move on from this quickly. Yeah. And Ted is trying to make light of it. And I am just like, Ted, this is not the time to be joking around. Like,
I think it's Colin when they're in the shower and he's like, he's going to use all the hot water.
And it's just like, it's not like it was a dog, which is already terrible, but it was also apparently like their mascot dog.
Yeah.
So it just feels like a bad omen also.
Exactly. And I think we're supposed to understand that Dani is, you know, maybe a little bit more superstitious / religious. And that this is going to have a much deeper and profound impact on him than it might have for a different player.
Yeah.
And when we see him in the shower doing the Hail Marys, and then there's this wonderful that when he has the nightmare later with the cartoon dog.
Oh, God.
But he wakes up in a panic, but he's in the bed with like two beautiful women. And it's like even the like these two gorgeous women that he just fucked wasn't enough to fix it for him.
I love the fact that those women do not wake up in response to him like screaming. They are out. And I like to think it's because he fucked them really well.
Oh yeah.
Like
he put that work in. They are knocked the fuck out.
I know that Louis C.K. is a disaster. But there is such a good joke about him talking about how men whine that women want to be held and touched after sex. And he's like, you know why? Because they're horny. Because you did nothing for them and their pussies are on fire and you have failed. If you fuck a woman properly, she will leave you alone and go to sleep. And I was like, that is the goddamn truth. So these women have been fucked properly. Mm-hmm. And this fucking dream, it's a cartoon dog. He takes the shot and he holds a sign up that says, this is going to hurt. And then it cuts to Dani getting sprayed in the face with very real blood.
It's not cartoon blood.
So yeah, this is weighing on him and it just doesn't feel like Ted gets it, which surprises me because I feel like if Ted killed a dog, that would fuck his day up.
Oh yeah.
You know, he just really doesn't seem to get it.
Yeah. It is, and this is going to be like sort of a recurring thing throughout this episode. This is outside of Ted's wheelhouse to deal with. Mm-hmm. And we see Ted sort of bristle that he can't fix this. Mm-hmm. And we get two new characters that are introduced in this episode. And obviously, Dr. Sharon Fieldstone is like the main new person that comes in. Mm-hmm. But also, we meet a new player named Jan Maas, the Dutch guy.
Jan Maas, the brutal Dutchman, as I shall be calling him. This man, he's not being rude. He's being Dutch.
He's just being Dutch.
Oh, okay.
And everybody is like, oh, yeah, we get it. We 100% get it.
This is something that I have run into, and I don't know, like you probably have also somebody where the language barrier prevents tact. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily even think it's a language barrier because he seems to have good command of the language. It's probably just like the sort of social difference.
Some of the conventions that are just like, we don't do that where I'm from. We just say the thing, you know?
Like it's, you know, depending on people that you talk to and the cultures they come from, sometimes just being like, wow, you really got fat, huh? It's like a totally legit greeting that you can just say. And there's, you know,
not a fan of it,
Indeed.
but in some places it's just like considered completely appropriate to just say the fucking thing.
Yep.
Which, you know, I would say don't do that.
I didn't make any mistakes. Only you played poorly. My God. Kill me.
Ted is like telling everybody to like shower at home to give Dani some space, and Sam is like, but what if we like to take a bath? And then like all the guys are like, yeah, we like to soak.
I love Ted being like, sure, that's fine. Like, because it feels like they're all asking permission from him and he has to give them permission.
It's literally, Sam is like, would it be okay if we took a bath?
I love that. Guys, can I tell you? So Owen and I are in the middle of painting our house, and that is definitely an improvement to the look of the exterior of our place, which is great. But the interior of our house needs so much work. And one of the things that's the hardest for me is our bathtub, which is first of all puny. And secondly, there is something going on with the drainage, and no matter how much Drano we use and how many snakes we put down these pipes, the water does not drain for a prolonged period. So by the time it does drain, the sides of the tub are coated in like shampoo scum. Yeah. And especially I have to use really heavy conditioner because of my hair. And so it just leaves this like, so I never take baths because the tub is fucking gross most of the time. And it just takes too much effort to clean it all out. Before relaxing, I have to do a chore. Like, come on.
Steve does this thing where he will clean the tub out and he'll be like, hey, I cleaned the tub out if you want to take a nice bath. And I'm like, oh, that sounds great. But I don't take the nice bath.
Why not?
Because then I have to clean the tub when I'm done.
No, you don't. Just turn the shower on. Splash it around. It's done. And it's just, like, we have a vacation coming up where we're renting a cabin, and this cabin, you guys, first of all, it has a regular old fat ass hot tub out on the back porch, which I'm so psyched about. But then it also has one of those like giant modern tubs that comes up to your fucking shoulders.
Oh,
you know, the ones I mean? I am psyched about it. That, and there is a giant 2-person shower with multiple shower heads. The ones above that are like rain, and the ones that come straight forward. And all of fancy. It. Yeah, it's like, honestly, the bathroom is what sold us on the cabin more than anything else. I was just kind of like, that's all I need is a place to just be in warm water for the most of the time. I'm going to come out of that pickled. So anyway, we have a little convo in the office where Ted is lamenting the fact that he was rooting for a tie, and he feels like it's karma that now he's being given every tie, and that the spirits, the powers that be, just are mocking him with
karma. Police is making him pay because he went against his natural instinct, because in the last episode of the last season, he had been so adamant about not wanting to play for a tie. You know, he had this whole big speech about kissing your sister and all this other stuff, and then when it looked like they might just be able to beat relegation with a tie, he just gave in.
I don't feel like we talked about the kiss your sister thing. What the fuck is that? I never heard that as a tie.
Oh, yeah.
In my life.
Yeah. Because I'm not a sports person, I don't really usually talk about ties, but I used to call decaf coffee. It's like kissing your sister. Yeah. It's like a waste.
So it's supposed to be like, you're getting a thing, but it's like not really getting a thing.
Exactly.
So like you're making out with a lady, but it's your sister.
It doesn't fucking count.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. Yeah, that is not awesome.
It's a weird expression. I used to go years and years and years ago. That's where I got it from. I used to go to a coffee shop when I lived in South Carolina, and they used to have cups. And and I think one of the little sentences was like, "You can order decaf, but it's like kissing your sister, so why bother?" or something.
How weird. Okay, sure.
Which is why it's so funny that when in the episode when Ted says that, he's just like, "Now that I hear it, I realize that's a ridiculous expression, and we should all stop using it." It's a little bit creepy,
and I also hate it. I don't know why I said it. I think it's just nerves.
So we have this moment in the coach's office where they're talking about what's been going on with the ties, and the new kit man that is replacing Nate, because Nate's a coach now, wants to know if he can leave a little early because it's his mom's birthday. And Nate is
vicious.
What did you think about this?
So, you know, we had the last season, the moment where Nate just like rips everybody apart, and I was very much like, really? Like, if he had this in him, I would have liked a bit of setup to see that it was there, because otherwise this feels wild. And now that episode feels like the setup for this. You know what I mean?
There's also in the last season when he's getting promoted and he doesn't know, and Rebecca shows up and he turns on her like, "You did this, you shrew." You know, like it didn't take him long to get there.
I just I'm glad that we had some moment, because otherwise I would just be like, what? And I still contend that the episode where he goes at people comes out of nowhere a little bit. But regardless, this moment, what I kind of relate to on this is I feel like what's going on with Nate is that he is such a hard worker and so like intense about his identity kind of being tied up in what he does, I think, that he expects everybody to have that same level of like devotion, I guess, you know. That's the feeling, especially when he's talking about later, well, if he needs some motivation, we could show him his fucking paycheck. Which honestly killed me. I loved that. Like, I get it. I get it, you know. And I love Ted just stopping and looking at him and saying, "A little aggressive?" Should bring an umbrella to a brainstorm. I think you're getting us started, Nate. But yeah, Nate has some resentment that he needs to deal with, and I can relate.
I love Nate being like, "Oh, you got to put pressure to get pearls," and then he's like, "Wait, no, that's not right. I fucked it up."
No, you just got unlucky. So yeah, this poor kid with the Ted coming in to save him and being like, "Tell your mom happy birthday," because Nate is just like, "Oh, what position does your mom play?"
Right. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize your mom worked for the team.
He has this there's something about the passive aggressiveness of that. He doesn't just say, "No, you can't leave." Mm-hmm. He has to do that whole manager thing, you know?
Yep. He's settling into his role. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like it's taking a lot for Nate to settle into having a little bit of power.
Yeah. And I can't help but wonder too, if that being the kid doing the job he used to do is a factor. Not to say that, because obviously he is aggro about Dani later as well. So it's not limited to that kid. Mm-hmm. But I could understand really kind of having an unfair standard that you hold a person to when they're taking over for you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But anyway, so we then cut to a little sort of meeting with Rebecca, Higgins, and Keeley. And he says something about how this other team sent them a bunch of food.
So good.
And Keeley asks, "Oh, what kind?" And he says, "Thai." And then he stops and he's like,
"Oh." Because he's just like, "Oh, it's so nice. This, such and such football club sent us a bunch of food." And then you see the moment when it clicks.
Honestly,
very, very
sending
good.
somebody a bunch of food just to make that joke is really committing to the bit in a way that I'm not sure is financially responsible.
I 100% approve of. I endorse it 100%. Commitment to the bit is paramount. And yes, even if it costs you a couple $100 to deliver that food, it's worth it.
There's in a community episode, they have a what's that game where you have to move the players with the little sticks and they swing back and forth and kick the ball?
Oh, foosball.
Yeah, they're having a really intense competition, and there's this guy they're about to go up against, and he's walking by with a soccer ball, and he has two friends flanking him, and he drops the ball, hops up onto their shoulders, and swings forward to kick it at them to just kind of psych them out before their big match. And then he just leaves, and he leaves the soccer ball. And Jeff is like, did you just buy this ball for the bit? You're just leaving it here? That's a $15 bit. And they just walk away. And I always think about that with moments like this. Okay, I mean, I guess you could do that. So we cut from there. Well, there's first a moment with Keeley and Rebecca talking about this dude that she's seeing.
I love this. This is Keeley and Rebecca are having a chat. There's a little bit. There's all of them talking about the food and everything, and then Keeley and Rebecca are talking about this guy, and Ted shows up for girl talk. Mm-hmm. Listen, there was a lot of conversation when this aired, and I didn't keep close tabs on it, but we talked about it a little bit in the first season, where there are these moments with Keeley and Rebecca, and Ted also, but really Keeley and Rebecca, mm-hmm. and how they have this relationship that is, simultaneously about the men in their lives, but that is not the whole of their relationship. Mm-hmm, they also talk very much about what they want themselves and with their lives and all that. What is that
Bechdel test? Yeah.
Right. So there was a lot of people talking about how the show passed that test in a lot of moments, and that's great and everything. But I also like the moments where Keeley and Rebecca are actually talking about relationships, because I think there are some really fantastic moments that come up in those conversations. Mm-hmm. And this is one of my favorites, when Ted tries to join in girl talk and gets a lesson in what girl talk means.
That's not here, actually. That's a little bit later.
Doesn't he jump in with them and then has one with Rebecca later?
He doesn't jump in exactly. He just watches them here because, like, eventually he asks about Roy and if he came to the game, but he isn't trying to do the girl talk thing in this scene.
Okay. All right.
And yeah, when Keely says that Roy didn't come, she says, "I'm sorry, Ted. Like, that's really hurtful that Roy didn't come," which I was surprised by because it didn't occur to me that Roy would just like be coming to all the games. Like, of course he wouldn't. Like, the reaction Roy is having to not playing anymore is precisely what I would expect. And I have to assume Ted also expects it, which is why he just sort of does that. I'm sure he'll swing by at some point, right? Like, he's trying to give him some space. But yeah, that's like the first hint that we get that something's up. And
so you're not surprised at where Roy is?
Not
in
even
this season?
A drop.
Like coaching elementary school girls soccer.
Well, I said that was the only thing I could think of that he would be doing. Remember? Literally, that was the one thing. And then I think I said something about a pundit, and I was like, I don't, like, and he clearly doesn't have interest in that. So, but yeah, I mean, like, that was the only thing that felt like we saw resonate with him was playing with kids. So it makes total sense to me that he's going to try and keep his foot in the game in some way, but in a way that's really kind of safe, because the kids aren't going to be worshiping him the same way because they didn't grow up with him being a superstar.
Right.
On their TVs the way that Jamie Tart is. Like, I feel like they'd have a very different reaction to Jamie being here than Roy. He's just old enough, so he gets to play, but it's the same thing as being with all these like housewives that don't know who he is.
So it takes some of the pressure off, you think?
Yeah. And the one thing that I'm really concerned about is that he's going to develop a drinking problem because he's at this date later and just wants more drinks. And then when he is with these women, he wants like more rosé. And I'm starting to be like, okay, Roy, you're just going to have to start to like cope with what's going on, sir, because this is not the way.
I feel like that more rosé request was in direct response to seeing Jamie on the screen, though. And also hearing his good girlfriends be like, oh, we love him.
That's exactly what I mean, though. He's surrounded by reminders of what is going on in his life, and he's trying to drink to escape that. It feels like when you drink in like reaction to a thing happening,
right,
over like more than once in an episode. If it was one time, fair, but we've seen it a couple times now, and I'm starting to be like, all right, buddy, maybe just chill out a little bit, but yeah, he is not coping well with not playing anymore. He is just really trying to like avoid anybody who used to be part of the team. He doesn't want to talk to his friends that he played with. He doesn't want to talk to Ted, which honestly, his friends that he played with, he didn't seem like he was super good friends with.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you talk about friends, like that doesn't seem to be part of the thing with Roy right now, as far as like
that's because that's what Keely says. She says, "Are you going to see your friends?" And he says, "I see my friends." And I was kind of thinking, yeah, Keely, like, do you think he's just going to go with the team to get drinks? Like, he didn't do that when he played with them. That wasn't even, But she seems to think that he should be hanging out with them still or something. And I was just sort of like, what do you want him to do? That's never been who he is. There's
also a moment, and I think it's when she's with him and Phoebe. We don't see it, but we find out from their conversation that Roy did a press conference to announce his retirement.
Right.
And it is not a moment that Roy is comfortable with or happy about that happened. But Keely is trying to tell him what a great moment it was. And then like it got like 15 million views on Twitter or something. And he's like, so you think telling me how many views I got on my worst moment is like going to make me feel better? Yeah. What do you think that press conference was? What do you think happened that why Roy feels like he's such a, like, he calls himself a knob?
All I can imagine is that he cried.
Oh my God. How funny would that be?
Genuinely, like, he yelled for her to get the fuck away from him because he was crying. Roy does not deal well with having any genuine emotion other than anger. So I have to assume that maybe something very moving happened and he kind of lost it. And because the word she says was, it was beautiful. Which usually when people say beautiful, it means somebody cried or you cried watching it. Like
very heartfelt, very sincere, very real, vulnerable, all the things that I think that he would hate, right?
Exactly. Which I feel you, sir. I really do. I nowadays cry over everything all the time, but I still am much more okay with doing it on camera than I am in person. I'll cry in front of Owen more than he probably would care for. But in terms of like when I'm around other people, don't like to. But on camera, there's a feeling of distance that makes it feel safe. But then I also have to know that it's like there forever.
Yeah.
You know? So I had like a One Piece episode the day that the Roe v. Wade thing happened. And I was like 10 minutes into the episode and just said something about it and then just lost my shit. And same thing on like a sex education episode. And it was 10 minutes because I'm alone. I don't even have a co-host to fucking vamp for me while I get my shit together. It's just me crying and a room full of people going, it's okay, I know things are terrible, and they're just trying to comfort me in the fucking chat. So I really understand just kind of being like, I really would have liked for that to not be something literally broadcast to an audience. But cool.
Crying like on camera, it hasn't really come up for me. We had a couple episodes where we cried, like especially for like HP, some of the big moments. But I've always been an easy crier when it comes to media, even as a little kid. I remember there was a episode of there's a Garfield cartoon where Garfield sends Odie to the pound. I was like 6.
That's fucked up, Garfield.
I sobbed. And Garfield, then my brother and all his friends made fun of me. And I've always been like easily triggered in that way. But I'm really particular about expressing that in front of other people. Like I can cry in private about like all kinds of shit, but I'm really careful about doing it in front of other people. So like my worst nightmare is that I like crying on camera and people can just see it whenever. Like I would never do this again. This would be done. Me and you, this done. If that ever happened.
Oh man. So he's coaching these girls. You see a close up of his face as he's screaming that they played like little pricks, and then the camera pulls out and it's a bunch of like 10-year-olds. There's one girl that's holding an ice pack on her head and he says, way to put your body on the line, and she just says, you got it, coach.
It's so great.
I love her delivery of that, and her hair just plastered to her head from the ice. Like her expression when she says it, she's fierce. She looks like she's gonna fuck somebody up.
She was like, you know it, coach. Like, and I'll do it again.
There is a moment in the Cradle series where I'm going to bring up that little girl. And you are going to get exactly what I'm saying. But yeah, this is exactly like the only thing that I could think of for him. And he looks like he's having a good time when he's in it. It's just when people bring up what's going on separately that he seems to struggle. Yeah. When he's able to just have his time, he really does seem like he's having a good time, but he doesn't want any reminders of any kind.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to be how you can live, man.
I was just about to say, it is a little bit unrealistic for him to think that he could be, you know, a pro athlete at the premier level and then just sort of disappear into coaching 9-year-old little girls, you know, in a public school, you know, football team. But it's where he can see himself considering his options. I love too the teacher being like, Roy, you can't call them pricks.
When they're being pricks. What I want for Roy, what I think would work really well, is to get a bubbly co-host of some kind and do a podcast about the games instead of being a pundit commenting while they're playing.
Right.
Do some little thing, and his shtick of being angry would work really well as long as he had a foil. He cannot be the guy. He would be the angry one of a pair or even a trio.
Right.
You know?
Note to listeners, Brett Goldstein's podcast, Films to Be Buried With, cannot recommend enough. Go check it out. You also, if you ever get a chance, to like put it in your ears. So good. It's so good.
Put it in your ears. I don't like that. Sounds like drops. So he's got this going on, and he meets with Keeley and his niece. Keeley's trying to get him to consider the pundit thing. He roundly refuses it with a great deal of swearing.
Could not be less interested.
I would rather fucking shit out of my fucking mouth than do that fucking shit. I mean, yeah, it just doesn't, like, it's a logical next step, which is why I brought it up, but it doesn't suit him at all.
For some, I mean, this is the career path, you know, pro athletes, when they retire, if they are lucky, they get invited to move into broadcasting and they become talking heads, they become pundits. And that's just the nature of the beast. It happens in all pro sports. And so it makes perfect sense that Keeley would have this offer for him, that Sky TV would be wanting him desperately to join them. And that Roy is just, he's so close to being a player, and I not a player of any kind, but I feel like if I were an athlete, I would have such disdain for the people who just sit around and watch us play, right?
It's like going from being an actor to a critic.
You know, I have such contempt for that. Like, why would I want to fucking do that? So it feels really real for his whole, like, ew, gross. I would never, you know?
Yep.
And in this conversation he has with Keeley, why Phoebe is pulling out her ledger because she's keeping track of all the curse words and how much money she's owed, I also really enjoyed that.
He owes her 1,236 pounds. And he is absolutely unfazed by that. I fully expect him to pay, too.
Yeah. Oh, he's good for it.
He'll definitely pay.
He's definitely good for it.
So then we go to the dream that Dani has, and him, you know, having this awful moment. And after that, the moment where Ted tries to do the girl talk with Rebecca, keeps interrupting her with these dumbass jokes. Can I tell you guys how much this is like talking to Owen? I swear to God, I love him so much, but oh my God. If I say anything, and I always will know when it happens because he has very consistent, specific references. But if I say something with a certain lilt to my voice that is the same cadence as a sentence that he would like repeat from something, he'll just say that sentence in the middle of whatever I'm saying. It's not relevant. It has nothing to do with anything.
It can't be helped.
It can't help it. Like, or referencing The Simpsons, you know? You're just saying like, quiet, Ripley. And he'll then quiet you because of the fucking wishbone dog or whatever it was, that bit. And a lot of the time when it's an informal conversation, I'm not too invested, I'll be right there with him. It's fine. I mean, I'll know he's about to do it because I'm doing it in my head. But keep it inside. And just let me tell you the thing, for God's sake. It is so, and he'll like find, I'll have to snap at him a little bit, but he will eventually get there. But then I can see it happening in his eyes when it's happening in his head, and that's not like all that much better. But yeah, this, like, I'm seeing this man, John Stamos. No, Ted.
She's just like, no. Could you stop? So you're telling me
the guy's name is Mr. Wing Night?
Wings Night. And he stops her there. Like, you mean like going like Friday night, Wings Night? And she just is just like, can you please?
I need to get a sentence out. One sentence. That's all I'm asking.
All of this off, please. But he can't turn it off.
I mean, he does eventually,
but he has to be directed to. Like his impulse is just, you know.
Sometimes it isn't girl talk, it's girl listen.
Listen, I love it so much because it really is such a basic fucking lesson that so many men do not understand.
It's true.
There are like a million comment threads on the interwebs about how men approach problem solving, and they listen to their often female partners vent and think they need to come in with solutions as opposed to just listening.
Guilty.
You know,
also, just for the record, I do this so bad.
And it's not necessarily gendered, right? It can be anybody, but it's a real thing where you want to just talk about your shit, and the person you're talking to feels like, oh, I need to interject with all the solutions I can come up with, as opposed to just being a sounding board.
Yeah.
So when he has that little line about sometimes girl talk is more about girl listen, I'm just like, yes.
Yep. I definitely do. I just, when it's somebody that I love and they're having a time, I don't want them to be having a time. So I'm trying to help them to not have a time.
Trying to fix it.
You know? And it's just not about that a lot of the time. Or I like, and this is something that I hate when people do to me. So I hate that I do it to other people. I'll suggest something that's so fucking obvious.
Yeah, like I haven't already thought of that and considered it.
Yeah. You know, like, and they're trying to help, but I get so mad. But then I go fucking do
the same thing. Yeah.
Yep. So eventually it gets down to her like talking about this dude and saying that he's handsome and he's successful, and he has to ask, is he nice to you? Because that's not even a factor that she's bringing up right here.
Yeah, she doesn't even mention it.
And then she sort of stops and thinks about it and is just like, yeah, he is. And he asks what the problem is, and she just says, I guess there isn't one. And it's an interesting reaction in light of what Roy tells her later.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is basically, there isn't a problem, but that doesn't mean that he's the right guy either.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us fall into this trap.
It's a nice little recurring theme too about like the idea of settling, right? So you have the idea of whether we agree or not, Keely seems to feel like Roy is settling for this, elementary school coaching job when she feels like he could be doing bigger and better things. We have Ted reconciling the fact that he was like settling for a tie when he knew that's not what he wanted, and then it feels like karma's punishing him for settling for that. We have Rebecca, this man who we meet in the scene like in a minute or two. We meet him and he's fine. He's not great, but he's fine. His Martin Short story, I was like really annoyed by him. I wouldn't have given him a time of day, but I'm not Rebecca.
I don't even think he's fine. I thought he was terribly obnoxious.
Like he was, when I say fine, he was obnoxious, but not the kind of like malicious, obnoxious that you're just like, oh, he's toxic. He was just like regular obnoxious. It comes with being his age and his status and his privilege, right? So he's like name dropping and telling these stories about meeting Martin Short and whoever else. And I mean, he's fine if you make the word fine mean like the bare minimum.
Which it often does, and especially with women.
Yeah. And considering what she had just come off of, which is Rupert, this guy must seem like, well, he's not an asshole like Rupert was, so this is a step up, and be willing to settle for this until Roy is like, what the fuck?
I love Roy, just like, because Keely's trying to play along.
She's trying to be a good friend.
She's really trying, and she's like, so when he tells this Martin Short story, that's insane. And Roy's like, mental. Can I get 2 more of these, please?
He says something like, Roy's like, what teams do you like? And he's like, oh, I like this one and that one, whichever one is winning.
I love it. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
I can't believe this man didn't immediately just burst into flames. That was like so.
When I tell you I want Roy Kent to be in my life in some manner, I mean it's for real, for real. Like, I really want him to be in my life so he can call me out on my shit.
We also need to talk about his beard real quick because that hasn't been mentioned, but he straight up looks like a young Santa.
He has just let it all go. He's not trimming.
Nope.
He's not keeping it neat. It's just happening.
It's still neat though. Like it's neat in the way that if I met him in person, I would think it was neat. On television, it's like messy in the messy way that television thinks it is, you know? Like, it's really not at all.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
But
we're definitely supposed to get the idea that he's letting it all go.
Sure.
You know, yeah.
And we jumped ahead here, so we have to go back to the moment where we find out that Dani cannot make any shots and literally like falls down trying to make a shot.
Got the yips. At one point, I think he kicks the ball and it's his ass. Like, it's just
a
weird
bit
moment.
later, but yes, indeedy. And they have a conversation about the yips, which I had never heard of. Did you hear of that before then?
Oh, yeah. It's a very common sports term that I know from TV and sports watching with Steve. And it's, you don't say it out loud. That's like super common. Like, you know, it's very, you know, superstitious. You don't say it out loud. Which is
why I wrote it down.
I love Beard so much, you guys. I love him so much.
Which is why I'm telling you in English, Ted. Yeah, a lot of that.
But yeah, so Dani's got a case of the yips, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to deal with it. And the idea of bringing in a sports psychologist comes up, and we find out that Ted's got a little bit of baggage. And we had heard some of this last season, right?
Yeah.
Ted had told us a little bit about what the counseling was like for him and Michelle and how he felt about it. So we're building on something we had already heard about.
Mm-hmm. And what he says is that he felt like he was being set up and that it was just going in every week to hear all the things he was doing wrong.
Yeah.
Which I went through some marriage counseling with Brendan, and I know he felt this way also. The marriage counselor clearly took my side most of the time.
Were you seeing the counselor before you guys went in together as a couple?
No.
Oh, it just so happens that once you went in, it felt like they were on your side more.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Because Brendan was very wrong most of the time. But like, I'm just going to say it. And it was frustrating for him because obviously, you know, but I also didn't really feel like it was helping because it was just somebody kind of going, yeah, what's that about? And I was like, look, I'm glad that you see what I'm saying, but the way they were approaching him with it didn't feel like they were doing it any differently than I would in a conversation with him. Just trying to sit down and talk to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was like, you're a total stranger trying to say it the exact way that his actual wife says it to him. That's not going to be better. Like, it didn't feel helpful, you know? So eventually he was like, well, I want to find somebody else. And he never did find anybody else. And which is unsurprising because there was like all kinds of other shit also going on.
Yeah.
But, I really understand where Ted is coming from. And I think one of the things with Brendan that kind of like floored me was that our marriage had been in a problem place for a while and he was seeing his own therapist. And I thought he was talking with that therapist about what was going on in our marriage. And when I asked him about that, it turned out it never came up.
Oh.
Right?
What were we talking about?
That was the moment.
His own stuff?
Yeah. Which I don't know how that doesn't include our marriage. That's really what it comes down to is like, how can you talk about yourself and not talk about our marriage? Like,
right.
Just how can you? When he told me he had never talked about it with her, that was the moment that I stopped and was like, we're going to have to divorce. Like, this is not even on his radar as enough of a problem to bring up in the therapy sessions he's been going to for like 2 years. And so the fact that he felt ganged up on, I was also a little impatient about, because I was like, you could have been coping with some of the stuff that I've been telling you by talking about it with your own therapist.
Right.
And you never did. And you had all these chances. Whereas with Ted, it doesn't sound like he ever did therapy outside of this one thing.
Yeah. And Ted tells us also that his wife had a pre-existing relationship with this couples counselor.
Right.
And he was sort of the interloper. So he shows up and they had already had a history. They had already had conversations. And Ted says it feels like I was invited in just to hear all the things I had fucked up. Like they had talked about all this shit. Yeah. So it never felt like the therapist was advocating for Ted and Ted's one. So he felt really like kind of bullied, and that clearly has stayed with him, you know?
Yeah.
And so when Higgins brings up the idea of bringing in a sports psychologist for the team, Ted is, you know, a little wary of it.
I gotta say about Jason Sudeikis' acting in that scene too. He is so good at tensing up when Higgins mentions this. Like his whole self just sort of tightens and his face closes off just a little, and you can feel him making an effort.
Yeah.
He's trying to not do that because I think he senses he's not really being fair, and that's why he brings it up with Beard later.
Yep.
But it's happening anyway, and it's just, I really liked his acting in that moment. It just felt like you knew something, he had something going on personally with the subjects, you know?
My favorite thing about introducing Dr. Fieldstone in this moment is that we had a whole season of watching Ted be Ted and, like, you know, taking the sort of lighthearted approach and how much we enjoyed that. And then all you do is you insert a person who's not reacting the same way, and it makes everything that Ted's doing different.
Yeah.
Like when the doctor finally does show up and we see Ted doing all the shit we've grown accustomed to him doing, like the song and dance when she first shows up. It
literal
changes,
song and dance
changes everything, because now you're looking at that moment like, why can't he just be a regular person?
It's weird though, because like you're saying we've seen him do this, but this felt over the top. This didn't feel like him, and it's a response to him being uncomfortable, and he's trying to like seize control of the situation that he's uncomfortable with by completely dominating the interaction.
But he's done the same thing in the past, and it usually people respond to it in the way that he's used to people responding to it, so it works for him, you know?
Right. I just feel like it was never quite this extreme, because I don't think he went into it this uncomfortable.
I mean, if you think about some of the early scenes with him and Rebecca and how over the top he was in her office when she was still just like, why are you in my office at 8:00 on a Tuesday? What is all this?
Yeah, I guess it just like more felt like he was really trying to forge a relationship, whereas this really felt like a performance.
Yeah.
This didn't feel like I'm trying to make a connection. It felt like I'm trying to like I said, just dominate the interaction. Like he wants to have things happen on his terms.
I really think that the reason it hits a little bit different is because the person that he is attempting to win over or dominate is like, Beard is like, she seems fun.
And I'm like, she doesn't not seem fun, Beard.
But she just doesn't give an inch. She's like, all right, you just did this whole performance.
Yeah.
Are you done?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't agree with you. I really do think that this is more extreme. Rebecca didn't give an inch either. She would be like, I don't have time for this. What are you doing? And it just never felt the same. This is somebody, especially too, Rebecca was also like hiding something so that she felt like she was trying to guard herself from him. And this woman isn't trying to guard herself. She is just trying to cut through all of this noise to like get some information. I'm here to find out where I set up. What are you doing? It just, there's a sense of almost like he's grown comfortable enough in his position here that he can dial it up a little bit, because he feels like, do you know what I mean? Where you get more comfortable in a place and so you overdo it a bit. I don't know if you have this. This is something that I have.
It feels very much like these are the go-tos for Ted.
Okay.
These are his tools, you know. and he digs into his toolbox, and this is what he pulls out, and it doesn't work for this woman in the way that, you know, it's worked on other people.
It definitely doesn't work for her. And he sort of like is fishing around like, do you think that this is actually going to help? And she has to do, are you good at your job? And he looks very put on the spot, and she's like, no bullshit. Tell me, are you good at your job? And he says yes. And she says, however good you are at your job, I am twice as good at mine. And just stands in that.
Yeah, stands in it. And everybody says, thank you for coming. We're so glad
to have you. We feel really honored. And Higgins offers her his office, even though he is clearly like not prepared to just be setting up in the fucking hallway. And when we see him doing this later, I'm like, Higgins, don't put the plant on this table. Don't do it, bruh. It's fine. You don't need the plant. You don't need it.
The plant is a very important part of the cubicle life.
Do you have a plant?
My plant died. I have like a little cactus that I tried to keep alive for 3 years, and it's just barely holding on. But everyone else has like plants at their desk that they are able to nurture, and they flourish. I don't have any.
Time at a bank, I had 2 plants, and I had one of those wax melts that you plug in that had like a real warm glow.
Oh,
and I would put like cinnamon scented wax melts in it, so my whole area smelled so good. It's a really nice little space. It's a sad tale.
Wax melts.
Yeah, the light was just cozy, and it would be so cold in there sometimes. I literally just hold my hands up to it because it was a warm bulb to melt the wax, and I would just be like, oh, it's like a little fire. So yeah, she takes off to meet Dani, and he asks like, do you need me to hang around? And she's like, no, I think we'll be fine. And he clearly does not know what to do with the fact that she doesn't need him. Yeah.
And I love this closing of the door is sort of very reminiscent of like The Godfather, where when Mike closes the door and the fucking Diane, is it Keaton? I forget what the actress' name is, but the wife, Kay, is standing outside as the door closes.
Yep.
And Dr. Sharon is speaking to Dani in Spanish.
Yes. She speaks French also.
Yep, we find out later. Yep.
I really wonder if the actress actually speaks both languages, or if she just learned the sentence for the moment, you know? But based on her like pronunciation, it felt like she knows both languages.
It felt, yeah.
So, and there's something about her switching to another language that felt extra exclusionary to Ted. Like, he could try and stand outside to listen in, and it's not going to do him a goddamn bit of good.
Yeah. And also, it's a way that she is able to connect with his players that he can't. You know? Like, he does have this phenomenal relationship with all his players, and it's real, and he earned that, and it's important. But she comes in and is able to do things that he can't. And it's like the big picture, like when he's asking Dani later at the end of the episode, like, what exactly did she do? You know? And what Dani reports, like, it's meaningless. It means nothing. You know, she told me football is life, but it's also death, but it's also you know, it means nothing to anybody else.
Right.
But Ted is like desperate to be like, what did she do?
Yeah. He wants the magic formula
that I couldn't do, you know? And the fact that she can speak to him in Spanish and then later with Zero in French are just like sprinkles on the you couldn't do this Ted cake.
I'm really surprised that he's so puzzled about dealing with Dani, because he is able to have like serious moments, you know. We have seen him connect in a way that's like emotional, and yet he wasn't bringing that to the table at all with Dani. And I'm like, why was it possible with this and that, and here you couldn't do it? What was going on, dude?
That's a really good question. Like, it feels almost like there is a limitation in Ted that we don't really know much about yet, you know. But
does it feel like that, or is that you telling me that?
No, it feels like that at this moment, really, you know, because like what you say about we've seen him in the past really connect with his players,
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, when he sees Dani in the shower, all he can do is make a joke.
It's like he tells the fucking reporters his whole story, and he doesn't even think to talk about Dani, talk with him about it. It's just sort of, so I guess, sir.
So you wonder, like, what's all that about? So then we cut to the double date.
This double date, agonizing.
It's hard to watch.
I'm so glad I haven't had to do this really in my life very much.
Double dates, or
go with a friend to sort of vet someone they're seeing.
Oh, right.
That is a thing that I haven't really ever had to do.
I don't think
maybe like really once or twice. And it's really tricky because the person that you meet isn't necessarily who they are with your friend.
Oh yeah. Hardly ever.
Yeah. And like depending on the kind of vibe they have together, it can really work for them. And with you, you're just like, he's a dick. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And sometimes the guy is a dick, and we like that, I mean, you and Steve, perfect example.
It's true.
And, if I was like, probably if I went out with you and met Steve and you were just seeing him, I would be like, girl, he seems kind of miserable. Are you sure?
It's so funny. Well, that's the thing about the thing about doing this is because in social situations when he cares, you're just like, oh, he's great. He's really funny and really outgoing, because it's a performance.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's like, meeting Sid's now husband. I really did not like the guy in my initial, it was not good. And since then, he started to grow on me because I'm understanding some of the coping mechanisms that he was using at the time that came across really assholey, but it was him not really feeling comfortable and just sort of saying whatever, know, which I honestly do relate to somewhat. It's just far enough in my past that I will forget that I was like that. And I have better control over it now. Not to say I don't do it anymore at all, but I started to recognize it over some time. But this moment,
it's really all we can hope for is that we recognize it over time.
And Rebecca is just, first of all, Rebecca looks unbelievable. She's wearing this one shoulder red dress, and then later on she's wearing this pink coat that I would kill a person for.
This guy that's sitting next to her at this table, I know finally after the whole scene we find out that he's not even that special and she deserves more, but just looking at them at this table, you're like, you are so out of your, what the fuck
absolutely
is this guy
I mean, there is no way. She's just a radiant goddess.
Yeah.
And he's just a guy in a fucking collared shirt.
A fucking banker.
Yeah. He's not even wearing a tie. What effort did you put in at all?
Nothing. And he's telling his story, which is again about these fabulous parties he's has been at with famous people, and he's name dropping and it's Rebecca is doing this thing where she's just like, isn't he great? Oh, this is so great. He's great, right? Tell me he's great, right?
She wants them to make her like him.
Yeah. Because she can't figure out on paper, like Keeley says, he's age appropriate. He's financially independent appropriate. He's status appropriate. This should be the thing.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I wonder what it was like with dating Rupert.
Well, she would have been much, much younger.
Yeah. And that's the question is did she really think she was in love with Rupert? Or did she know she wasn't and was just but this is still fine?
I'm sure she was swept up in the Rupert strikes me as the kind of person that love bombs you.
Yeah.
Does all these big gestures and you know what I mean? Just keeps you off centered. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the thing that comes up, not to get too sidetracked, but I've been listening to Snapped podcasts again because I have to do something to keep my mind off the housework. And I can't get over the number of stories of a woman murdering a man that start off with him showering her with everything she could ever want. And then it will come out that he's abusive, and his whole family will use the fact that he gave her everything she ever wanted as an example of how he couldn't possibly have been abusive. Because, of course, they interview the family of the victim for the show, which, of course, they believe the best of the person who was brutally murdered. But so much of the time, I'm hearing it, and I'm just like, yeah, you guys didn't know him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just can tell they are either in denial or genuinely don't know, because that's one of the number one signals. And then, and he wanted her to move away from her family and didn't want her to have a phone. Mm-hmm. All of these giant waving red flags, and everybody's like, it's just because he loved her so much. And I'm like, holy shit, you guys.
Oh, you should have seen the way he talked about her, and he would show up with 800 dozen roses and
at her workplace. Weirdly, often.
Weirdly,
like he was watching her all the time.
And so that all the witnesses their only interaction would be, oh, he was great. He showed up with like beautiful flowers and presents and balloons and,
There's one particular one that I listened to early on, and I'm just like, this woman was really wronged. Like, it's so clear looking. It was an old case. And even the way that cops talk about her is so gross. And they imply that she wanted a payout, and then are laughing that she never got the insurance payout because it wasn't to her. And I'm like, she would have known it wasn't to her. Why would she kill him for a payout she wasn't even getting? If you were doing it for the money, you check on that shit first. That's how you do it. And just like all of it, they're just so gleeful about the fact that they managed to keep her from like getting anything out of it. And it's like, she was fucking abused, you dickheads. It's just anyway, I'm sorry, but it just gets me very angry sometimes. So this date ends, we have them outside, and Keely does the thing, oh yeah, he says and then Roy cuts in and just says, fucking hell. And she says, is there a problem? And he just says
the thing.
He's fine. And it's fine. Most people are fine. But I want to know why you think he deserves you. You deserve to feel like you got struck by fucking lightning.
This is the thing.
And there's a moment of him just sort of stepping back and then,
sorry, nobody asked me. Not even my business. But like and then Keely is just low key like, he's not wrong. Like, I didn't want to say it because I was being a supportive girlfriend. But since it's out now, he's not wrong.
100%.
And then we cut from the date to Beard and Ted at the bar.
Right. Talking about the therapy thing.
Talking about the therapy thing. And we get a little bit of background there. And I think after they're at the bar, we go back to that's
when we meet the therapist, because we've kind of jumped around here. And then we go to Rebecca at the coffee shop with this guy. And
now, have you seen Magnolia?
No.
It's one of my favorite movies. It's quite old now at this point. I think a lot of people found it like kind of, it's a Paul Thomas Anderson. There's two Andersons, right? There's like Wes Anderson, who makes like those weird, quirky movies. And then there's Paul Thomas Anderson, who did Boogie Nights. And the fucking, what's the movie with the guy with the fucking cow thing that bangs you in the eye? You know what I'm talking about? Javier
Bardem?
Yeah. The movie where he was like, hey, friendo. You know what movie I'm talking about?
No, I do not know anything about what you're saying.
But
it feels like you're making it up and just gaslighting me.
But so he did that movie, Boogie Nights. He did the really fantastic Adam Sandler movie, Punch Drunk Love, and Magnolia, which is one of my favorites that a lot of people don't like, but I think it's a great movie. And when she is in the coffee shop having that moment and she's looking at everybody, it's the music playing, the Annie DeFranco song playing from that movie, No Country for Old Men. Thank you, Devin.
Oh yeah, never saw that. Never saw Boogie Nights. Never saw any of these.
And when they have a little bit later, Ted is talking about the Tom Cruise movie with the little ponytail. So I recommend it. Watch it sometime. It's really, really good.
I won't do that. Good. I'll just tell you right now. You've done this for me to let me know it's not happening. I'm going to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
It's not happening.
Fair enough.
But yeah, she's like looking around and the lyrics are something like, it's not going to stop until you wise up.
Yeah.
And he's been telling this fucking story that I texted you, that line. Remember, this is when tickets to Stomp were hard to get, which I don't know why adding that context feels so extra douchey to me, but it really
is, though.
Oh my God.
It's such a fucking nothing line that adds everything.
It's just him trying to really hammer home how, like, actually this was kind of a big deal that I did. Like, who cares?
Exactly. Like, this was I pulled this off because I'm super special. Like, you have to understand how important I am that I got these tickets. Yeah.
And she finally tunes back in because he's like, hello. And she starts talking about a friend of hers saying,
Flo.
Right. But I'm saying to him, friend of hers. Right. And she said that being vulnerable is being willing to open yourself up to attack. And how it's having to be brave. And she has this moment of just like being willing to be brave and like do, take that risk. And
he's like, are we breaking up?
I love this moment because I don't think every guy would have taken it that way. And I kind of appreciate that as much as he's obnoxious, he still can see that's what's happening here, because a lot of dudes wouldn't see it, Right.
I think it's really important that the show made the distinction that, okay, we met this guy and he's obnoxious and we kind of like, nah, but he's not an idiot. It's not that he's slow. It's not that he's not paying attention to what's happening around him or what she's saying. He picks up on what she's saying right away because he's not like an idiot. It just so happens that he is not sparking in her like the feelings that she deserves to have. And it's not because he's like the worst guy ever and it's just trash. And I really appreciate the show showing us that in this moment. Yeah. Being like, okay, yeah, maybe he's not who she wants, but it's not because,
he's a bad guy. Because it does feel sometimes like when we tune in both times we meet him, he's just talking about himself, which is such a thing, But when she starts talking, he does listen. He stops and lets her, and he actually is listening and responding to what she's saying. Like, it's not. So I appreciated that a little bit, but he does realize she's dumping him, and then she says coffee's are on me, and he's just like,
fair enough.
Fair enough.
You goddamn right they're on you.
So then we cut to the field where Dani Rojas comes running out, delighted, back in spirits, and Ted turns and waves to the therapist, who just looks at him and looks away.
Ted is like, she didn't see me, and they just like, no, she absolutely
saw you. Woof, damn.
So do you have any feelings about this new character, this Dr. Sharon Fieldstone? Because they presented her as kind of being like no nonsense and no fun, right? She's no fun.
I disagree as no fun. I disagreed from the start that she's no fun. Honestly, the fact that she asks their record in hacky sack indicates to me immediately that she is actually quite fun. And she's impressed at their score. Why would she give a shit? She doesn't need to engage on that level. But she doesn't want to fuck around with the fluff. And that's Ted, clearly his defense mechanism so much of the time. And she just doesn't want to. And she's not gonna. And she's gonna see like, well, what do you do if I don't, though? Right. Like, what if I'm not charmed? And I'm into it. because I said it before, I could see why his wife could be exhausted by him.
Yeah.
You know?
That's one of the things I liked about introducing this character. And we'll see how it goes throughout the season. But we saw Ted, and he kind of in the first season just sort of like charms everyone, you know, because he's super likable. Like, it's difficult to not root for him. So what does it look like when you meet someone who's just like, come on.
Yeah.
Sir, all the time? We're doing this 100% all the time? And like, what does that look like? And we didn't really have anybody like that in the first season.
Yeah. Yeah. So he meets with Dani after, asks like, what was it that she did that helped? And he does the thing and it feels like nothing. And then Ted says, I'm going to go up and thank her. And Beard says, least you could do, but he says it in this real knowing way. I feel like Beard is fucking completely aware of what's happening right here.
Beard is always aware of everything that's happening at all times.
He's genuinely just like, oh yeah, just to thank her. And when Ted goes up there and finds that she's already in session with somebody else, you can see he's really thrown off.
Yeah.
And it's clearly, there's a combo of things happening here, I think. One, he wants to be this for his players and feels like she's stepping on his turf a little.
Yeah.
Two, I think he wanted to validate her as having been effective when she's already being validated by other people being interested in talking to her. She does not need his stamp of approval here, you know? And also the expectation of her availability. And she is in demand. People are interested in genuinely making an appointment. He's trying to just swing in all casual and also like get a free fucking therapy session, right?
And also being like ready to escort her off the premises as well. Like, thanks for coming in and fixing Dani.
Bye. And it's really clear that he is like wanting her to be a tool that he can. It's just the fact, I cannot emphasize enough that he is surprised that other people are making appointments and that he didn't plan on doing that.
Yeah.
When you talk to people who are in any sort of profession that interacts one-on-one with people with giving advice and things like that, there's always going to be people that try to weirdly milk you for your expertise without paying you, without like engaging professionally. They're trying to do it in this casual way, like they're being slick about it. And that was just what I kept feeling, was Ted was trying to act like he could have a conversation with her and get a read on what she's done for them from her, so that he can sort of take that info and like go and apply it himself, and maybe even like get a sense of whether or not she can help him. But he doesn't want to be official about it because he doesn't want to acknowledge her work, that this is a job, that she's an expert and she fucking knows what she's doing, you know?
And that I think I'm really glad you mentioned that, because when you circle back to sort of the beginning, when she's first introduced, and he tries to call her doc, and she's like, doctor. You know, she's setting these boundaries, and she's setting an expectation of how you are going to talk about me and how you're going to treat me. You're not going to diminish me, even though like a funny little nickname is all like familiar, and we're like, we're a team, we're a family. But she's just like, no, you're not going to just give me a nickname. You know, it's sort of in the same sort of energy of like when you meet a group and your name is, if you have a name that's not common, you know, or might be difficult to pronounce, or from a different language, and people want to shorten it for their own comfort, and you have to be like, no, that's not my name. You're going to say my fucking whole name. And that is all the way through this whole episode.
Yeah.
Like Ted just keeps trying to be like shortcuts. And every time she's just like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
I really relate to him on some of this as well, because my personality is so outgoing in such specific ways. And then I will retreat. You know, I'm an extroverted introvert, I really think. And turning on the extroversion when I'm feeling uncomfortable is like a conscious choice that I'm making, because it helps and people do respond to it. And I have run across folks who just don't really care for that. Most people do, and it works well. But when I do run across somebody for whom it doesn't work, there's a combo of things that happen for me. One is I suddenly kind of have to stop and be like reevaluating and decide how I'm going to act now. And there's also sometimes a part of me that's relieved, because if somebody doesn't respond, it can be that they just don't like me, that they're just maybe not particularly friendly. But sometimes it's what this feels like, which is that they can see it's sort of bullshit.
Yeah.
And you can then, I can sense that out a little bit and tell if they're a real person. Because that's the thing that I always have had trouble with when making friends, is that people talk about having friends and they often mean it in this incredibly superficial way that has never really mattered to me. I don't care about like having people to go to parties with. I don't, you know, and it just wasn't, I want somebody to like have long conversations with and actually have them understand what I'm trying to say,
right,
without having to spell everything out. And if you can see that somebody is kind of like seeing through your shit, it signals a little bit that, oh, okay, maybe this is a person I can have an actual genuine connection with. And that's kind of nice sometimes.
If you can make it through your own insecurities to get to that bit, right? Because in my experience, my initial response to people not responding to like my shtick or whatever you want to call it is sort of like defensive. But if I can get through that, then I'm like, oh, well, this is a person maybe requires a deeper thing.
Exactly.
You know, and it'll be worth it. I want you to think about that, and I'll ask you about it later on in the season, because I'm really curious if you have any theories about what's going on with Ted.
This is kind of reminding me of Fleabag, actually. And I'm not going to get into that whole thing now, but in my opinion, Fleabag is the best television show ever made.
It's spectacular.
It's like,
it's a spectacular, only 2 seasons, right?
2 seasons, like 25-minute episodes, 8 episodes a season.
Perfect.
And I sobbed my fucking eyes out at the finale, because I just felt seen in a way that was like aggressive, even though the story is aggressive. I lie. I was going to say it's not aggressive. It is absolutely aggressive.
Super aggressive.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm talking about, but it is not feeling like it's trying to hold up a mirror. It feels like it's about her, you know, and it just happened to also kind of be about me.
You don't realize it's about you until it's too late.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, there's a sense here of like performing and using that as a way to hold people away from you, which just so relate. And it's hard out there, kids. We come up with our ways, you know,
and it's so common. So many of us have developed these strategies, these coping mechanisms to deal with the world and find our way in it. And sometimes we get overly comfortable or overly reliant on these tricks and whatever, you know. And then when we're challenged on those, we're just like, wait, what? You're not falling for my shit? Everybody falls for my shit. What's wrong with you?
That's like one of the primary things when I was first talking to Owen, was that he could see through some stuff, and that was what interested me. You know, and it just that's a signal. But again, like you said, you have to be prepared to receive that somebody is not falling for it.
Because
and that's
if
not
you're
always
not,
the headspace you're in.
It is wildly jarring,
Yep.
defensive feeling. You don't want to deal with that person anymore. You want to fall back to the people who deal with you the way you're used to being dealt with. It's a whole thing.
Yep.
Okay, so let's see.
So he is like interrupted by somebody else who's going in to see her. I think it's Sam, and she starts speaking French.
That's Zoro.
Oh, Zoro. It's Zoro. And then we have Keely talking to Roy on the phone.
I love this.
First of all, can we just talk about, devoid of his face, Roy's voice on the phone made my whole body tremble. I just had a moment of like, good God. He just says, "Hey, gorgeous.
Oh my!
What's going on?" And I was like, "Fucking stop! No,
we're not going to spend this podcast talking about how a bitch is like thirsty for Roy Kent in a real way. I'm not going to bore y'all with those details, but it's real.
Oof.
And the way he talks to her on the phone, and then she apologizes because when they had the blind date dinner, you know, and Roy is talking to this jackass and talking about coaching the team, and Keely ends up being like, oh, well, you know, it's almost like, oh, he's coaching Kitty, but that's not important. But he's got this other more important stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. And so she apologizes for taking that moment and using it to try to like convince him to do this thing that he's already said he's not interested in doing.
Yeah.
And we're like back on the apology accountability tour.
I really appreciate the apology, but I also think it's interesting because I was sort of reading it. I definitely read it as her attempting to corner him a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I also thought he was signaling shame at coaching the girls. Like there felt like when he said girls like 11 through 9 and then he calls for another drink immediately, it felt like he was embarrassed and she was trying to save him a little and be like, oh, but also funny. He has this thing. So I think she's right to apologize because it was like, I do think the other thing was also happening, but I thought she was attempting to help him save face a drop, you know.
I have to say I read it a little bit different. I felt like her intention was to help him save face. Mm-hmm. You know, I agree with that. I don't agree that Roy felt like he needed help saving face. Like Roy was just like, this is what I'm doing and it's fine. And I'm getting more drinks because you're insufferable. Gotcha. And this is terrible.
Gotcha. Yeah, it was the timing of that made me think. But I would rather think that he isn't ashamed of teaching girls soccer. Like, I just don't want him to feel that way. So I prefer your version.
He has decided that this guy is terrible. And I have to like go back to the thing we talked about earlier when the guy is talking about, because Roy's like, what teams do you support? Which is like a real fucking serious thing. You know, he's a professional athlete. You say you're a fan. And the guy says, I support whoever is winning.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. I don't even follow sports anymore. And I know that's nonsense. And you are not to be respected. That tells me so much about you. You support whoever is winning?
Sounds like it. Oh, that line delivery. So she asks if she can come by with a bottle of wine. And he's like, but I am doing something. And she's like, oh, right. It's tonight with your ladies. And
I get to see him with his ladies.
They're rolling up their yoga mats in the background. I'm assuming this is his apartment, or maybe not. I don't know.
I think he's at someone else's place, but I don't know if it really matters. But
and they are gathering around to watch Lust Conquers All,
trashy reality TV.
And I am just all about this. These women are gathered around and we get like the little intros of each player, and this one girl, first of all, there's this black woman with an afro. I don't know if you would call it an afro because it's like ringlets, and I always picture an afro as being like the 4C. You know what I'm saying? But she is so gorgeous and she's in this green dress, and I was just like, you're the host? Why are you competing on this show? But yeah, she says like She introduces, will it be Grimsby's top makeup counter associate, Allie?
I'm the one that makes your lipstick. And then the women are like, she's such a fucking slag.
Oh my God. She's getting out of the pool with this like perfect hair, slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm the one who makes your lips tick. What does that even mean?
I'm the ones that make, well, it's like supposed to be like a play on words, I guess, because she's the makeup artist, right?
Right. But it's lips tick.
Oh, I thought she said lipstick.
That's not what the subtitle says, but the subtitle isn't always right. So I don't know. It might be your thing.
I'm sorry. I thought she was saying I'm the one that makes your lipstick, which is like I make your lipstick as a makeup artist, but also not a great. Right. Not but good, though. Also Jamie's play on words was not great.
I love that one woman tells her, "Shut up, you slag," and the other one defends her, and it's like she's hilarious. Yeah. I appreciated that a lot because that's always a thing where there'll be one player that a lot of folks will find obnoxious, and I'll just be like, they're the best one. Right, what are you doing?
And it's also fun too because it's like a little bit of like, because these are older women that Roy's hanging out with, and this is like a much younger, like hot chick on this reality show. Mm-hmm. So the idea of like older women sort of being like, oh, she's just a fucking slag, she's nothing, and then another person being like, wait, no, she's hilarious. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And then what's Jamie's line?
Or will it be the footballing tart Jamie? And we see him slick his hair back real slow while gazing at the camera.
I'm the island's top scorer. Sexually. Now, what do you think? Jamie's doing a reality show. What do you think happened?
This is 100% on brand to me. Like, I don't even know that. I don't know how seasons work here.
You mean like the football season?
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
So this could just be an off-season thing that he's just doing, you know? I just, him being on this, it's just so perfect to me. It's just so perfect. Like,
it makes so much sense that you don't even have a bunch of questions.
I don't have any questions. None.
I love that. You're just like, yeah, this is on brand. This is exactly what I would have thought would have happened.
I can't think of a better thing for him, like better than football, frankly, for Jamie, is to do this just full time forever. Is it be a reality TV celeb, and he jumps from this to like Big Brother to Dancing with the Stars, and he just does the whole circuit.
So you don't have anything like you. So at this point, you're not certain if this is like in between seasons or if he's no longer playing, and what happened and why he's not playing. None of that is like
no questions.
All right, we are getting close to like the end of the time, and I just wanted to mention two things I want you to think about for this season, and I won't spoil a lot of stuff that's come out. But I will say this season 2 has 2 episodes that are add-ons. They weren't included in the original run.
Oh,
right. Apple came back to the team and said, give us 2 other episodes. Oh. So I'm going to ask you each week, what do you think the add-on episodes were?
Oh, okay.
So
I got
obviously
you.
It's not going to be this one, but I want you to think of that as each episode as we go on. Okay. And let me know, what do you think the add-ons are?
Gotcha. Okay. And Roy's response, I don't get the impression he knew Jamie was on this, but I don't know. It's hard to tell because they're talking about the characters like they know them. Mm-hmm. So they may have been watching this without him, and this is sort of a new thing to watch it together. But he looks around with this like smirk because he's expecting them all to just be like, this fucking guy.
The way he is disgusted because they are like, I love him so much. He's just like, you top off my rosé, please, Janice. Because he is so disgusted that no one else is as disgusted.
This does not read as realistic to me. I don't see a series of women of this age responding to Jamie Tart with uniform approval. Absolutely not. This guy is such a windbag.
But it's a reality TV show, and our expectations of the performers on these shows are so different.
But that's the thing. Reality TV, there's never a unified opinion about a player almost ever, except for the one that they decide to villainize.
Yeah,
that's usually like, and they edit it in such a way. But it's super rare for every woman in the room to agree, especially on like a male player, because women have such varied tastes that, so that was the one thing where I was like, there's not a single woman here who is like, oh my God, get over that fucking dude. And I just kind of was not buying it.
I'm curious now. I'm trying to go back. I know that there's like one woman that expressly says how much she loves Jamie, and I'm trying to like gauge the rest of the women in the group. Can't really tell if they were all in agreement, but it felt very much like the one girl was like, "Oh, I love him," and everybody kind of co-signed
like everybody
it, right?
says, "Oh, same." Lots of nods.
Yeah.
I don't see a single person disagreeing.
Yeah.
So yeah, he asked for a top up on his rosé, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, because he can't watch this sober. This is too much.
And just again, I cannot emphasize enough how perfect this is for Jamie. I mean, all he really wants is like constant adulation and approval, and this sort of thing where it's all about like how many women you can nail, I guess. And the whole world watching you with your shirt off. I mean, it's not going to get more tailor-made for his ego than that.
The last time we saw him was at the end of the Man City game that he won. He was being berated by his father.
Right.
It was not the sort of joyous celebratory moment you would expect him to be having in the locker room after winning this huge match. So I'm really curious to see if we find out and what you think of how he ends up being on this show.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time. So I want to say hi to new patrons real quick before we wrap it up. Let me get my little button here. This week, we've got 4 new people. Hey! We've got Anders Sandum, Tommy R, Catherine Guild, and Shreyansh Gupta.
Yay! Welcome!
Welcome to all of you. Thank you all so much for signing up, becoming patrons. I think everybody is at least at the $5 level, so you'll be able to get access to Sookie, which I'm also doing live.
Sookie.
Yeah, we're almost finished with the second book already.
Already?
It's passing fast.
Fuck.
Yep. And those, again, I'm doing those live as well. And the early ad-free Ted Lasso and Song of Ice and Fire, well, now Hot D, which has been contentious, ladies and gentlemen.
It has been contentious.
We have some feelings on things, and Rashawn was a lot more forgiving to begin with. And the last episode we recorded, she had it. And then she's sort of coming back around this week, but then we had like a comment thread that went quite awry that we're going to talk about.
All over the place. People have hard feelings. Really
they
strong
are in their feelings. It's really something. So, yeah, if you're not joining us for that, you should, but just be prepared. Those are some 2-hour change long episodes.
It's a real roller coaster, y'all.
So thank you guys so much, all of you who came to the chat to hang out with us. Really appreciate y'all being here. And we will see you next week with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
No, my hands won't be tied down, and I will not lay them down, 'cause I can finally see the truth. So simple but so clear, accepting an ocean's depths were out of reach for me and you. If you're coming up for air, breathing in, you know I'll be there when you first begin. And when everybody's telling us we have no time, we'll prove them wrong.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.